G'day and welcome to the Life Aquatic with Rob Bull.
Wow. G'day you mob, Blacky here from drblack66. That's a bit chilly, woo, but not so bad at all. As you're probably aware, you're watching the Life Aquatic with Rob Bull. So let's jump over and see what Rob's up to today. Over to you, Robbie.
G'day Blacky, g'day YouTube, and what a bloody great throw that was. Seriously guys, if you haven't checked this guy out, drblack66, make sure you do. He's got more talents than you can poke a stick at. Not to mention, he's just a generally all-round ace bloke, and on his live streams he has cohorts who bring even more talents to the table. It ain't just tanks with the doctor, oh no. There's art, there's music, and all kinds of shenanigans and general tomfoolery, so make sure that you do check him out. Naturally, there will be a link in the description. So, before we get into what I've been up to today, I just want to introduce a new segment, one that I'll be adding to the start of all my videos. I'm calling it Paying It Forward, and all that it is at the start of every one of my videos I'm going to shout out another channel. Today's obviously being drblack66. Now I thought for a while on how I'm going to select the channels for this segment, and I figured that the fairest way was to support those people who are supporting me, so I've decided to choose the channel based on the number of videos the person has commented on, as that's the only real way for me to know who's been watching. So to answer your question earlier, Blacky, what I'm up to, today we'll be having a look at the fry finally. I've kind of intentionally left them out so far, so that I could make a video on their little battle to survive, and all the trials and tribulations of life in the Thunderdome when you're an inch long. So up in the top left hand corner you'll see the footage of the day that I introduced the female peacock into my all male cichlid display tank, and this is literally 5 minutes after she's been introduced. I saw this behaviour and I thought I'd run and grab my camera and film it, and obviously on the main screen is where you will see the fry themselves. As you can see, in the beginning the fry tended to hang around the rocks and the plants, not straying too far from cover. They do this for safety, as it allows them to duck back into cover quickly if they're under threat. You can see this guy here hanging close to the rock, darting out to grab little bits of food that are being swept past by the current, and then heading back to the rock to try and blend in. And it's a strategy that works, except when it doesn't. I know that it seems like that little guy there is toast. Fear not, dear viewer, that fish actually was fine. Grover was actually chasing Elmo there, and that particular fry was absolutely fine, although I'm pretty sure he got quite the shock. And as you can see from this footage here, the fry are at different stages of development and wildly different in size, with the braver, stronger fish getting more food and therefore growing much faster. As for exactly how many of these little guys are in there, I have no idea. The most that I've ever seen at one time is 4, although sometimes I don't see that many, sometimes I only see 1. Sometimes I see none for quite some time and start to worry and then see 4 again, so really who knows, but my best guesstimate would be somewhere around 8 to 10. And although this might sound a little bit harsh, 8 to 10 was probably more than what I was after. Those of you who have watched the earlier vids will know that I suspected, well, strongly suspected, that they were hybrid fry between the blue dolphin and the peacock. But now I know it. The largest of the fry has the 2 tear-like markings under the eyes, like Grover does. And when that large fry gets stressed, it gets 3 blotches on its side, which is exactly the same thing that Grover does. Whenever he gets stressed out, usually when I move decor or move the position of the light, they don't like that. And Grover gets these 3 dark blotches on him. And the fry gets the exact same thing, so the guessing is over, and they are definitely hybrid moorii dolphins crossed with Eureka red peacock cichlids. Now this is the exact reason that I left her in here, to spit her eggs naturally, rather than stripping or moving her to a tank where she could spit them and not have them predated on. Now there'll be purists out there that are saying that they're hybrids, they should be killed, but I see no reason why they should be. I have no intention of selling these fish, but I am keen to grow them out to see what they look like, and to even breed them with each other to see if they breed true. And if they do breed true, guess what? You've created a new strain of fish. Because we can't forget that some of the most popular strains of African Cichlid are actually hybrids between two species. And quite often we don't know what those two species actually were. So things like OB peacocks, dragon blood peacocks, hybrids. Don't fear the hybrid people, just be responsible with it. Make sure that they breed true before you give any away or sell any, because the last thing that you want is something that looks like a dolphin cichlid that throws the occasional peacock cichlid when it breeds, or vice versa. And I suppose the next question that needs answering is, what do these guys get fed in a community cichlid tank, and how do I get the food to them? And well, in the beginning, I had no idea they even existed, so I have no idea what they ate. I can speculate, but at the time they were spat, I actually thought she'd eaten her eggs because I saw no sign of fry whatsoever. At that time, there was a large DIatom problem in the tank, which was a problem only in an aesthetic sense and was actually helpful in providing a food source for these fry in and of itself, and including the various large microorganisms and teeny tiny macroorganisms. There is also in this tank, believe it or not, a highly secretive colony of red cherry shrimp culls that live in the rock pile underneath the big red rock, and in addition to that they would have been eating the tiny particles of food expelled from the larger fish's gills as they ate. Once I noticed they were actually there after about a week, I started giving them all kinds of live foods. So they've been taking small mosquito larvae, bloodworms. Once a day I've been siphoning water from the deepest levels of the Java moss carpet in the shrimp breeding tank, which is teeming with microscopic life and tiny macroscopic life as well. So things like Daphnia. Basically a soup of infusoria. You can see it swimming around in the bag when I siphon it into the bag, just like you could see it in the video where I set up the crepensis tank. As for the dangers these little guys face, well, the obvious one is all the big cichlids. Any of these little guys would clearly fit in even the smallest of the bigger cichlids' mouths. But to be honest, they don't appear to have any interest whatsoever in eating them. I guess when you're as well fed as those guys are, you just can't be bothered going after something that runs away. The real danger that these guys face is each other. These little guys are way more brutal than the big ones. I saw a fight between two of these little guys that went for at least a minute, possibly two, and it was every bit as hectic as when adult cichlids fight. I did get it on camera, but unfortunately it was on the Chinese piece of junk that I bought. Word to the wise, don't do that. And you know, the footage is unusable. And on a side note, I've almost set aside enough for the new camera, so that should be coming soon. Finally get some pictures of these fish that do them some justice. And at the end of this episode, there's an epic chase scene where one fry chases the other, and I honestly could not believe how far one chased the other for. It was ridiculous. The big cichlids don't chase each other nearly that long. So make sure that you stay tuned and take a squiz at that, because it really is interesting. Or you could skip forward. But as you can see, these guys exist relatively unmolested in this tank, which was honestly a surprise to me. But I guess they're just too small to be a threat and too fast to be worth chasing. Another thing that I should probably mention is these guys survived a heater failure, dropped 7 degrees overnight, so they're obviously pretty tough, as they are after all, only tiny. But as you'll see in this footage coming up, as the female peacock swims by, you'll notice that she's got a mouthful of eggy goodness all over again. So I guess I'm going to have to invent some kind of fish contraceptive device, the fish dom or something, I don't know. But the simple fact is I don't have enough room to grow out a bunch of fish that are going to grow quite large. One parent grows to 6 inches and the other one grows to 10. And if you split the difference, that's still a big fish. And as we come to the end of the video, you'll notice that the fry aren't quite so tethered to the rocks and the plants as they used to be. They're swimming more in the open water. Sometimes I come out and they're just floating above the filter or above a rock or an ornament, and they're not really hidden at all. They don't seem to think they're about to be eaten, and I'll have to take their word for it because I'm not a fish. So thanks for staying with me all the way through this, and remember, if you did like it, to hit that thumbs up and share it out, because we need as many people as possible to see Blacky's naked chest. And come on, let's face it, who doesn't love baby fish? And if you haven't already, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so that you don't miss any upcoming content. And believe you me, there's a content coming. And here's the chase scene that I promised. You can see here the big one eyeing off that big bit of flake, and then he spots his rival. And even the lure of a massive piece of food can't stop him from chasing this guy, and chasing him for a long time. Like I said, brutal little fellas. So, thanks for watching, and as always, be good to each other and your fish.